And all right. Well, excellent. It is. It's great to have everybody out tonight. I'd like to welcome out people that are new, and also some of those that haven't been with us for a long time. If there's one thing that is true, I think now, I mean, it's that the investment keeps getting better. It keeps getting a little easier. It keeps getting more. Uh, I think the counties are getting better at catering it to investors, and so in that way, it's becoming easier to do. So let's talk about what we're going to discuss tonight and kind of an overview of it. We also have Steve Swenson here with us. My name is Ferre. If I didn't mention that in the beginning. Steve and I conduct the training webinars every week. We've been doing this for years and years. I think we've been holding weekly trainings for probably the last 7 years. And it's interesting. Even during that time, it's changed dramatically. We get a lot of questions sometimes about, questions about how exactly the due diligence process works and what it is that you need to do in order to do enough due diligence to feel comfortable buying. We get that kind of a question on a pretty regular basis. We always get people that are also wondering, where to begin. That's a common question. People are sometimes it seems overwhelming because you've got 3,300 different counties out there, and you're just not really sure where to begin or what to do. What we really like to do is simplify a lot of this and do what we can to make it as easy as possible. And so, what we're talking about here tonight, we're going to go through and look at just using the student website, using property tax list in the auction calendar, and showing just how you can start off there, identify something that would look attractive, and then begin the due diligence process on it. And also, we want to talk about property records in general at the county, because counties are excellent at keeping records, and you can find almost anything you want to find. In fact, in a lot of ways, if you were willing to spend enough time on it, you could do your own title searches essentially. Not exactly everywhere. In some places, title search companies have access to different records, than what the public records are. But it's amazing what you can get access to today. So let's talk about that, about getting started here. Oh, also, by the way, I've been going through and replacing. I've gone through and replaced about 30% of the OTC stuff, and I'll be replacing probably another 30% here over the next 24 hours. So you should see all of that completely new with some of the latest stuff. There's also a ton of sales that are taking place. So a lot of really exciting stuff taking place over the coming weeks. A lot of really good opportunity too. I have no doubt in my mind that if you want to acquire a property, there will be opportunity to do that. Even with simple online sales, there'll be plenty of opportunity to do that in the coming weeks. For this example, we wanted to start out. We're talking about property acquisition. Okay, so we're interested in acquiring property. What are our options? Where are we going to start? Well, if we want to acquire property, really, there are a couple of different ways that you can do it. It's funny. Sometimes I, as I correspond with people, or as I talk with people, we invited out a lot of students from the past out to this one, so I had some correspondence from students, and they were saying, well, we never really did it, but we get the gist of it. You buy a lien, and you have to, you wait for it to redeem, and at the end of that, then you can foreclose on the property, and that's true, and that's what a lot of the world thinks of of investing when you're talking about tax sales. But the reality of it is, that's only the process that happens with liens, and most of the time with liens, the liens end up redeeming. That's kind of what the lien is meant to do. Now, not all the time. You will end up foreclosing on liens sometimes, but the I think that the stance that Steve and I have always taken on it is if you want property, it's so much easier to start with property. Start with property that's already been foreclosed on by the county and doesn't have any of the other hangups. And there are so many opportunities with just tax deed states and the properties they offer that it seemed like a very easy way, to buy if you want property. So we always steer people towards tax deed states if they're interested in property because they don't have any of those strings attached. Now, for this, we're going to start off. So let's say that we're looking at different counties, different sales. What exactly are the options that we've got? Well, there are 3 ways that you can buy. This is something that's always easy to remember. You've got live sales, you've got online sales, and then you've got over-the-counter. So those are the 3 ways you can buy, whether it's tax liens or tax deeds. Between those, if you think about it, with the first one, live sales, unless you're local to the area or you plan on traveling, that's not going to be something that you can make it to. Although if you're really interested in an area, you can do sealed bidding, but that's really about the limits of what you can do with the live auction. Now, your online auctions,
or if you have a friend,
or
family member,
a friend or family member, somebody that can attend the auction for you. Now, if you're looking at an online auction, suddenly the advantage with that is that you kind of break the barriers of distance, and everybody's on the same playing field. Suddenly the counties can market to everybody, and everybody can participate in the auction if they want. With a sale like that, it's fairly simple. If you're looking at online auctions and you need to participate in an online auction, then what you're looking for specifically are sales dates. So that simplifies one thing for you. You need a sales date because only with a sales date can you get a sales list. And that will be for something that's coming up. In fact, we're going to look at, Manatee County on the 23rd, but if I were looking for an auction that I was going to register for, I would look further out than the 23rd right now. What's nice about it being, with the 23rd is that a whole bunch of the properties have redeemed, and so you're getting down to what's left on the list is the stuff that will most likely go to auction. So that's a benefit of it. You're working closer to that date of the auction, but you do need enough time to place a deposit and things like that. So you'd be pushing it right now. So let's say for this example, we're going to go through some of these. I wanted to show some of the slides because it gives me a little bit different control over it. Allows us to kind of talk about different steps that we normally just fly through. Then also kind of focus on the due diligence side of it here. The specific sale that we're going to focus on here is that one that's on the 23rd. So after clicking on the link, it takes me here to a page where I can choose the dates. I'm going to choose that one where there's only 12 out of 50 that are left. So when you think about that, there were 50 tax deeds initially when they offered the list, which could have been a month ago, and over that time, that many properties have redeemed. Now that's a little bit excessive compared to most lists, I'd say. But in some counties they have a higher redemption rate than others. So they're down to 12 right now. Now I went through this list, and maybe when we get a chance to go, we can look at some of the other properties, but because there were actually a number of good examples, among those 12 properties. But I wanted to focus on the last two. The last two that were on a page by themselves, these 2 properties right here. What exactly is the first thing that we're going to do once we're looking at properties like this? We've got options. Although I was thinking about something, to estimate the bid to value ratio, we can kind of do that with the assessed value, but what we really want to try to find out is what the actual value is, what's more of an estimated value of its actual worth, because sometimes assessments are dead on and sometimes they're way under. Even now we're starting to see some pretty dramatic differences sometimes in assessments within counties.
And part of that is because in certain areas, usually you're going to have a spread anywhere. We usually use the estimate of 80% on average. The assessed value will be about 80% of the market value. Um,
That's just one thing we can do. I mean, that's if we wanted to determine a bid to value ratio on it, we need to try to figure out about what it's worth. But I've got a bad habit anyway. You can copy the address. You can click, you can click on the actual link there and the parcel ID. The truth is, none of those are really wrong. It's whatever you'd like to do first. I always like to copy the address because that's the easiest way for me to pull up, what the property looks like and to see about what it's worth. But really, none of those answers are incorrect. I mean, anything you want to do is, in terms of starting off, you wanted to click on the parcel ID, we can get additional information on the property. Now, we're looking at the two properties. The one on the top, opening bid of 11,000, assessed value of 127. When I looked at it, it from the top it looks like offices or condos, but from the ground you can tell that it's definitely offices. So it's some kind of office space, and it's really not too bad. What's kind of interesting, I entered it into Zillow, and it gave me it gave me a value on it anyway. But normally you can't get that from Zillow. So the value that Zillow is estimating on it is $222,000, 136. The rent estimate's on it like $2,000 a month. It looks like a pretty nice place. Well, if we take that 11,000 and an estimated $222,000 estimated value, we're looking at like a bid to value ratio of 5%, which is crazy. By the way, I use you can either guess it or you can use I used a percentage calculator on this one because I wanted to be exact, but I usually just guess it. And usually you can just eyeball, bid to value ratios and get an idea, be able to tell which one's going to be better. Now, because with it being a commercial property, there's not quite as much information about it, that's available. I figured that, the bidding on it could very well end up redeeming, because the more valuable they are, typically the more likely they are to redeem. But if it does go to auction, it'd be an amazing property. But I figured this one right here might be more up.
And there's things you could do to do a little bit more research on it, like going to Realtor.com and seeing if there's any, similar condos that have sold recently, and that'll give you a little bit better idea of what it sold for. So, it sold for 210,000 or 220, then you can see that the value is close to what Zillow estimates it. If it sold for 180, then you have a better idea of where that value's at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, in just a minute, we'll show you how you can, how you would start into the process. You can start to look into the records. This one. So this is the property right down below that, with the $4,700 opening bid amount. By the way, these are properties, again, they're going to be offered on the 23rd. So we're talking about 5 days away. Zillow estimates it to be worth $110,000, which is about double what the county's assessed value is. One of those cases where it's a pretty broad difference.
You can also see it sold back in 2005 for 107.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, we'll look at that here in just a second. We'll dig into that a little bit. It makes for a bid to value ratio that's pretty incredible. I mean, really, anytime you're looking at bid to value ratios that are under 15%, anytime they're even under 20%, it's pretty remarkable in terms of pricing. If you find properties like this that start off really low like this, they're just nice properties that are worth quite a bit and they've got a lot of value in there. Also, when we get a chance here in a minute, we'll take a look at some of the examples we're going to take a look at some examples of different properties that were offered even just a week or two ago that didn't get minimum bids, and again are just going to certificate holders, because they're not getting a bid. And some of these are really nice, incredibly nice, especially if you're not getting even a minimum bid. That's what's pretty crazy about them. So we can tell with this one, the basic information in front of us. This is the information you can typically pull up within just a couple seconds. We can also, if you click on the link for the county provides on the list, it's going to pull up a property record or a portion of the property record. This one's the property appraiser's website, and this is where they have their property records listed. So they provide a summary of each property, but it's not necessarily the complete county record in terms of what they have. This is just the property appraiser's office. So this isn't the entire county. This is just this is just their web portal. So first we determine what we can find out from here. One of the tricks too that I've realized is that the way the county has this layout done is a little bit unique to this county. I've never seen it quite like this before, but every county has something that's sort of similar. And I think it's a matter of just learning how to navigate that. See the similarities and jump through the sites pretty quickly. In fact, it was a thought that was going through my mind. I think sometimes we go through and gather lists on a regular basis, and as you do that, you get really fast just going to the places where where it needs to go because it gets to be a regular thing. The more practice you do with counties, the more time you spend on county websites, the better you're going to get at navigating all of them. Now, on this profile, a couple things that we can see here. You can scroll down, but we've got a table on the left that will give us a lot of details on properties, on the property. The details we might normally pull up with, I would say it's pretty similar to what a lot of other tax sales, might have attached to a property, as far as an overview. You can see, though, a couple things. The parcel ID is a little bit hard to, well, I guess there's two different places for it. The account number is the parcel ID number. You can also see up here in the top in the yellow, they've got the parcel ID number listed again. So you've got it twice right there. On the right-hand side where that arrow's pointing to, you can get, let's say that this is a property you're interested in, and you wanted to, you want to do some more research on it, but you want to save some information on this. The easiest way is just to click on that, the printable summary, and from the printable summary, you essentially cancel the print, but save it as a PDF file. And that's going to be the easiest way to save that overview. Yeah. Now, based on this, I was going through looking, and the sales information was completely missing for this property. And a lot of the information, I would say the last 5 or 6 things were missing. And besides that, we wanted to see if we can get some more information anyway. So we're going to go to the county website. Typically, though, I like to use NACO. I've been using NACO a lot lately just because it's interesting. Every time I go into a county, like, for instance, this is Manatee, and so I'll use NACO.org to get to Manatee County, even though I could just go to Google and type in Manatee County. But the reason why I do it this way is because it's interesting. If I'm thinking about investing in that county, then it's interesting when I go to do this to notice what the population was in 1980 and 2010, and to notice that it's more than double. That's really strong growth. It's a good sign of healthy real estate, in the area. That's strong growth, even for the state of Florida. That's pretty strong growth.
You also have the email addresses of people that are going to be important in the tax sale investing process down there below. You've got the tax collector, the clerk, the property appraiser, and so you can go directly to that first page. And if you wanted to, email the clerk of the county court to find out some information about the tax sale, you could just click on that link right there and automatically email them.
Now, I've got a couple. The first couple of examples here are examples of properties that sold, earlier this month, and then I've got a bunch of examples of just properties that are scheduled for sale. And there's some amazing properties there, but I've got a bunch of them. I've got, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 of them. So we're going to go through them pretty fast, so we don't burn a lot of time with it, and then we'll basically go over to some of the county websites and look at that property. We'll dig into a little bit more, and we'll also look at some of the other upcoming lists. Which, by the way, we'll be able to see everyone's questions here in just a second. When I'm in this presentation mode, I can't. But we love to get questions. This particular property, it sold on the 4th of June This is Jacksonville, so I'm trying to think which county this was. Jacksonville, is that Duval?
Um, I can't remember.
I'll have to look. But anyhow, it's whatever county Jacksonville is within. Uh, I've looked at a lot of lists here today, but you can see that this property had an opening bid amount $6,152, assessed value of $24,000. It didn't get a minimum bid, so for $6,000 it goes to the certificate holder. Well, I wanted to see what the property was, and it was one of those examples where the assessed value is about half of what the estimated value is on it right now, and the images that I was looking at were not too old. So the property's probably not in too bad a shape. It's been livable. It's been lived in within a fairly recent amount of time, and ultimately, at least the question that I'm thinking when I look at properties and what goes through my mind is what the potential uses are for the property. In other words, is how close to being rentable, or if I wanted to rent this thing out, or if I wanted to turn around and sell it, then I suppose a lot of the same things would count. But that's what I'm usually thinking about when I look at properties. You start to develop a criteria in your mind of well, I guess really you get it on paper, but a criteria of what you're looking for in properties. What's okay?
Yeah, exactly. And even when you're looking at that rent estimate, I'll just kind of glance at that and see, well, okay, so, estimates about $675 a month. This property was one for 6,100. Well, that means in less than a year, if you were to rent this property out, it would pay for itself. So that means after the first year, after the first 11 months, you're going to be making, $700 a month for the rest of your life off of this property if you were to rent it out.
Yeah, this property was purchased for about 12% of what it's worth, and it wasn't even purchased. That's what's funny about it is that the lien holder is just kind of going to end up getting it, but it wasn't actually somebody even bidding on it.
What'd be funny too is with this property. Let's say you decided to do a seller finance option where you acted like the bank. Well, how easy would it be to ask for $5,000 or $6,000 down, and so and then you finance the rest on a 20-year or a 10-year note. That's something that happens all the time, and you can find great people that will consider the home their home because they put $5,000 or $6,000 into it, which means they're going to fix the property up. And when you're seller financing, you're not going to have to worry about a leaky faucet or anything like that because the property owner is essentially buying it. And if they don't pay you, then you just foreclose a victim, and you can go ahead and start the process over. But that way, you almost really recoup your investment up front, and you start making money immediately. There's no other real estate investment that you can do that with. Most real estate investments you have a mortgage on, and you are paying a certain portion each month on that mortgage, and you're hoping that the property will go up in value so that you make more money, or that it increases in value so that your investment increases. Or you're just kind of in a position where if somebody doesn't pay the rent that month, you're in a you have to make a payment to the mortgage company.
Yeah, yeah, but that's why. Thinking about people hate. Remember what we've talked with a lot of real estate investors over the last decade, and I don't know how many times we've heard we used to hear people talk about when you talk about long term real estate, like people would just immediately, I don't want to be a landlord. It was like an automatic response. That people had, and times have really changed. But something else that's just interesting to know is, are people's credit, is it getting better or worse? On average, people's credit is getting worse. And that's part of the reason why a lot of these alternate services are booming. Things like PayPal, services like that. They're booming because of that. Well, on that same note, people are going to need housing. That's one of those vital things that people will always pay for, and low-priced housing will always be in demand. That is just a fact. And the lower the price of the housing, the more in demand it will be. There's so much room and so much opportunity, and they're also the quickest to sell because people are, it's entry level. People are always moving into entry level stuff.
Yeah, and with a property like this, there's different things you could do. Not everyone that has bad credit is not going to be a perfect landlord. I mean, a perfect tenant or a perfect, person that you sell the home to through seller finance, because they may have bought a $100,000 home when the market was at its peak, and suddenly their home was worth $20,000 and they couldn't make the payment and they had to foreclose. But otherwise, they are on top of their bills. They have a job. They're rebuilding their credit. And in addition to that, when you offer a price at a lower price or a low interest rate, let's say that you offered a lower interest rate than any of the banks, you could entice people with great credit, if that home is what they're looking for or in the same price range, to do seller financing and not even get a loan through a bank. If I can get a loan on a property without going through a bank, and I still own the property and I'm getting a lower interest,
it doesn't report on your credit. You're making money on it.
That's a good situation. So I wouldn't mind buying a property that way, if I was just a normal person looking for a home, because I'm getting a lower interest rate. I can pay the property off quicker. In fact, we've had investors before that have told some of their seller financing students or some of their seller financing, I don't know what you call them, investors, not investors, but clients, people, that if they paid it after a certain period of time, they'd deed them the home. So if they made their payments on time for 10 years, then they would deed them the home because they had already made back their investment, in the with that opening down payment in purchasing the property. And so they made 10 years worth of income, and it was worth it to them to have somebody in there that was making the payments on time every single month, and after 10 years deed them the home.
Yeah, maybe they saved the person 5 years of time paying.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
To them, they don't mind because they've already made so much on it, and it was also it was something good to offer the person, to give them a goal to never miss their payment. Because they knew they could save that 5 years if they never missed a payment.
One of the investors that I worked with that did this, it was an older couple that had a bad situation and needed to get back into a home, and it was the perfect situation. It was a win-win situation. It gave the property owner somebody to sell their home to at a good rate, at a good price, but also gave those new homeowners a chance to get back into a home, to have a place of their own, and to pay less each month because they're not paying as much in interest. I mean, you get $100,000 loan, and you pay it over 20 or 30 years, you're likely to pay $200,000 or $300,000 for that $100,000 home.
Another idea too is a lease option. A lease option is a great way to get somebody into a place immediately, and it's also a great way to buy yourself time to fix a title on a property. So, with the lease option, nobody's going to do anything with the title immediately for a while. So, and you'll have a renter, that's essentially an owner, that's moving in, somebody that plans to buy the place. So,
and they'll have the same type of requirements as far as somebody who's lease optioning. Usually they put down a down payment as well, and some of their payment each month is going towards the property. So they're going to be, if there's any type of small problems and stuff like that, generally the tenant will be the person, or the person that's leasing, the leaser, will be the person that fixes the property.
This is another example right here. The property that sold didn't even get a minimum bid, ended up going to the certificate holder, and it's kind of interesting. When I first saw it, I saw that it was manufactured, and sometimes I have a tendency to judge pre-manufactured stuff too quick. Because it's not always bad, and this is one of those examples of a property that was that's prefab, but it was never meant to really be mobile. I mean, it's already been assembled. It was basically moved in halves and then assembled. It's essentially just a manufactured home. And the more I looked at it, it was nice. I mean, the opening bid on it was $12,000, but the property had an estimated value of $115,000, and it didn't even get a minimum bid. I mean, we're talking about a bid to value ratio of 10%. It goes to the certificate holder. In this case, and I mean, even the pictures, you can see that it's been pretty well cared for. It's pretty big, spacious.
It's probably pretty new too. I mean, I remember my grandparents, when I was a kid, they had a summer home down in St. George, Utah, which is just in southern Utah. And they had one of these homes, and I remember it was the first time I ever went in to one of those prefab homes, but had vaulted ceilings, and it was incredibly nice, hardwood floors. And so some of those are actually just really kind of homes that are built and then put on they had solid foundations.
Well, anywhere in the U.S. there where you've got a high water level. So if the water level is high at all, and it prevents people from having basements, then you end up getting a lot of slab grade foundations laid, and a lot of times that'll work great for the prefab stuff, or you'll have a lot of well, basically a prefab like that, you can really put that just about anywhere.
Well, yeah, and something like that is so new. I mean, really, you could turn around and sell that very, very quickly.
And these are some more properties coming up for auction here on the. These are coming up on the 9th of July. So we've got a couple. Let's see here. We've got maybe 2.5, 3 weeks on these ones before they're coming up. We've got a lot of them here that are pretty good. You can see $6,000 bid, $33,000 assessed value. That's actually the highest one with the 20%. That was one that was the highest of any of them, but it looked like a decent house.
It looks like it's quite a bit bigger. I'll bet that the assessed value is higher. Or it's all brick. I bet once it's cleaned up and put on the market, it's
I think
$50,000.
I think when I looked at it, I think that the price had like recently taken a big dump for some reason. I don't know exactly.
But it's because
probably because of the tax seller.
Yeah.
What's interesting though is that the reason why a lot of these homes are empty. When you're looking at like this record, let's say the Zillow record on the left, you're looking down there just quickly at it, and you can see last sold, February 2006 for $79,000. What was happening in February of 2006? Real estate prices were certainly they were peaking, and so what probably happened was somebody probably bought it, in 2006, and they maybe even got a decent deal on it. But what ended up happening right after that was the market fell out, and they've got no way to pay for it. Suddenly it's worth half of what it's worth. They can't get out of it. They can't sell it.
Well, and a lot of the loans that were balloon type loans where your payment was $800 for the first 2 years, and then suddenly ballooned up to $1,600, and you just
it's not very practical.
Left people high and dry, really.
And so I think a lot of those people end up abandoning the properties. They end up walking away from it, and the mortgage companies, all the lenders are left with just a huge surplus of properties. And I think in a lot of ways they've got so many properties that they are not keeping track of them.
Oh yeah, we've seen that.
This one's the other one that had a little bit higher, but still, you're talking about $6,000 and $7,000 houses. This was a really nice one. $17,000 opening bid, but valued at $126,000. These are a bunch of them in Jacksonville.
You look at a home like that when it was built in 1993. It sold in 2008 for $255.
$155.
Yeah, what's it? $155. So we know that it had a higher value at one time, and I would bet that at the peak of its market, maybe in 2007 or 6, this home was probably even worth more than that.
It was probably worth $200,000.
Yeah.
This was an interesting one. You come across lots of different types of property. This property opening bid of $8,700. It's estimated to be worth about $61,000 right now.
It's got 4 bathrooms.
That is a lot of bathrooms for that small of a building.
Yeah, that's right. That might be a great rental if you could pick it up for the right price, though, because if you could rent it to a church or something like that, that's usually, pretty reliable.
Yeah. Here's just another good one. This one right here is $9,000 opening bid, estimated worth about $73,000. And you can see kind of from the satellite view how the property is laid out. It's kind of a bit of a rural piece of land, but it looks like it's decent. Another one, $5,000 opening bid on this one, $87,000 estimated value. Pretty nice.
What is that?
Oh, it's just a house.
Oh, I know. The front of it has.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They had like a little, like one of those island things on the front. This was a super nice property there. I thought this one was pretty awesome.
This is about as nice a home as you can find when you're looking at a $7,900 opening bid, an assessed value of what is it, Shade? 150?
Yeah, 154.
154,000. It's over 2,000 square feet, built in 1998.
Yeah, 1998.
I mean, look at it. It's all brick, yard. I mean, 2-car garage. That's in a nice area of town. So when you're talking about this type of property, this is a dream type property when you're looking at real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, this, most people wouldn't believe that you could even, start bidding at $8,000 for a home like this. And even if it sells for 16 or 20, you're still getting just such a nice home that you could turn around and sell, rent, lease options, seller finance.
When they say that the rent estimate on it's like $1,200 a month, I believe it. I mean,
sure.
That seems like a nice place to rent for $1,200 a month. And if you think about it like that it has the capacity to bring in that kind of revenue, that $8,000 opening bid starts to look kind of ridiculous when you think about the fact that it would have itself paid off in 6 months.
Well, and also look at that. The last time it sold was in 1998. That was when it was built.
Yeah.
So this is was a property that only has one deed on it.
Yeah, very simple history on it when you look at it like that. It hasn't had a lot of transactions, just that one from when it was built.
So clearing up the title will be usually quite a bit easier.
This one, $3,000 opening bid amount, estimated to be worth $79,000 right now. I thought that was pretty impressive too.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a bid to value ratio of 3.8%. This is one of the lowest I've seen.
You're talking about you can't even buy a car for $3,000, let alone a home.
Yeah, well, and it's still got a rent estimate of $800 a month.
3 months worth of rent.
This was a really nice one too. This one was just super nice. The kind of property that you definitely look for.
Well, you can see. I mean, there's things you're looking at when you're looking at the property. You can look at the grass, see it's been mowed. The bushes.
It was last sold in 1976 for $24,000.
Yeah.
And that was probably market price for it back then.
And a property like this could very well have been grandma or grandpa's property, and they passed away, and they haven't been paying the property taxes. Maybe one of the cousins is living in it. That type of situation where the family just doesn't take care of it. Or, I mean, it really could be any situation, but, those are the type of scenarios where a property like this might go to tax sale.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what often happens is that somebody is no longer making money with the property. If it doesn't have somebody actively renting it, or it just, it can be that maybe they just ignored the property taxes. And if that's the case, then they'll usually find a way to pay it off. They'll pay it off before they lose the property. But in other cases, the property people have just walked away. And so there's really just nobody there, and nobody responds to any of the foreclosure notices. This one, $4,400 opening bid, $65,000 estimated value, and gives us a bid to value ratio of about 7% on that one. This would be, again, the one thing that all of these properties have in common. I mean, you might look at these properties and think, they're not exactly fantastic, but really what you're looking at, though, and I think maybe a better way to look at it is to look at each one of them like they are a cash machine. Like they're just a little revenue generator that that have the capacity to make you a ton of money, even if it's not a home that you would personally want to live in. That doesn't mean that there are not people in the area that wouldn't love to live in it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this house, let's say you pick it up at the tax sale for $5,000. And you decide to sell it quickly. Well, in a matter of a week, you could sell it for $25,000 or $30,000, and now you've suddenly made $25,000 off your $5,000 investment. And so, a home like this may not be something you want to live in, but a home like this is, as far as an investment or a business, is a great investment. Just looking at the basic information so far.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. This was another one that was pretty impressive. $7,800 opening bid amount, estimated. I had the wrong estimate on there. It's not 65,000. It's 228,000. And that's why that bid to value ratio is so low. So at $228,000, I mean, it's a really nice property.
So we're looking at a $230,000 home for $8,000. I mean, that's just, or at least an $8,000 opening bid. That's just incredible. Mm-hmm. And this home too was built in 1998.
And the last time it sold was for $175,000, which means it was sold with a warranty deed. So the sooner back in the history it has a warranty deed, the better. 7.2% on this one. It's a $3,800 opening bid, but this one again would be like a perfect rental.
All these properties that we've looked at today, have an opening bid amount of between $3,000 to $8,000, and just at first glance, every single one of them could be a property that could be turned around and sold quickly for huge profit, or rented out, and really every one of these properties could almost pay themselves within a year.
Yeah. Now these might be in Manatee County. Some of these ones right here. Take a look. Okay. All right, let's see here. Let's see. Oh, by the way, sorry, we're just kind of going back and we're reading all the questions from before. When we say that it goes back to the certificate holder, the way that the taxes work, I mean, if you were to buy, let's say you were to buy a tax lien, there's just the certificate holder is usually going to mean the one that has the first right of redemption on it, and the first right of foreclosure.
The person that bought the tax lien.
Yeah, basically the first person that bought the tax lien. They a lot of times they buy subsequent tax liens, and so they own all of the tax liens placed against a property, or maybe they bought, and paid off some of the taxes, but not all of it. But they still would have the right at that point to foreclose based on the law.
And that's what's different about Florida is going to have both tax lien and tax deed sales. And so, most deeds will be, if they go to the foreclosure process, will be paid off at the, whoever purchases the tax deed will pay that original certificate. But in some of the scenarios that we saw earlier, where it was awarded to the certificate holder had the tax lien, they foreclosed on the property, nobody bid, and so that property owner was able to acquire the property from the tax sale.
Let's see. Let me just look here. Oh, by the way, the pictures, there's a way that you can tell. In fact, I'll show you right now. So if I go to, let's say I always start off at Google Maps. So we start off here. Let's see.
Let's look up property. Look up this property right here.
Yeah, let's see here. There we go. That's the 3911. I think that if I just start on the 3911, it'll start. No, it's not. It's like reset. Let's see. 3911 Golf Park Loop. Golf Park Loop. There we go. Okay, so one of the ways that you can tell, let me just kind of enlarge this a little bit so that you can see. Okay, so when you go to the Street View image, and so you click here on the Street View image, something that you'll always see as you at any point is down here on the very bottom. You can see an image capture date right here. And so this shows me that this image was taken in May of 2011. Sometimes you find it. The oldest that I've seen with Google Maps is maybe 2007 or 8, and it's not uncommon to find stuff that's within the last 2 years. That's pretty normal. They've really done a lot with it with their Street View mapping program here over the last couple of years. So that is going to be the places right down here. Is where you're going to want to look to get an idea of how old the images are. And if the images are very old, you don't want to trust. You don't want to trust old images. Especially if they're too old. If we're talking about if the images are more than a year old, then it starts to you start to wonder if the condition is what it was like. I mean, the longer the duration of time, the more likely it is that the condition is not like it is in the picture.
Yeah, you always want to have an updated picture of the property before investing into it, either by having a realtor do it or hiring somebody or hiring a service, some of the services that are available to go out and take a couple of pictures and give you a good idea of what the current condition is. But what this does do is it automatically gives you the ability to see what the property is and also what kind of condition it was in. And some of the images may only be 6 or 8 months old.
Now, on the properties that we're showing here, we've been going through on the list. I guess when you say that they can be sold immediately, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if you're talking about them being pulled off the list because they redeem, or if you're talking about the ability to sell them.
It's just with a clear title. You can sell a property with a quit claim deed. You're going to receive a tax deed or a quit claim deed at the tax sale, and you can turn around and sell that property. You're just not going to be able to sell it as a warranty deed. And so when we talk about getting a clear title, that's so that you can get a warranty deed, so that you can get top dollar, and it can be financed through a mortgage company. You can list it with a realtor. But if you're selling that property to another investor or to somebody that has cash or anything like that, especially if you're selling it for a discount, you can sell it essentially as soon as you get that tax deed.
Yeah, I mean, the idea, it really kind of goes along with anything else in business. The more you're willing to discount the price, the more the other person is willing to accept with the property. And if you're not trying to get top dollar out of a property, in other words, if you pay $5,000 or $6,000 for it, and you're trying to sell it for 15 or 20, you're obviously not trying to get full dollar out of it. You're trying to unload it. And the person that's going to be attracted to that is going to be an investor that's willing to take the time to do it. So they're used to buying it, with a tax deed, or with a quit claim deed. It still conveys full ownership, but it's simply not a warranty deed because it doesn't have that implied warranty, and that's just something that you have to fix with time. But you can still sell it. It's just a matter of making the arrangements. And if you're willing to give up enough on the price, I mean, if you bought it for a low price and you're willing to give up, if you're not trying to make a lot on it, I think you can find a buyer. I mean, if you're willing to sell something for a low enough price, I think you can always find a buyer.
Well, and who would be the perfect type of buyer for that? Would be a local investor, somebody that just buys a property, fixes them up, turns around and sells them, and kind of does one property at a time. Because that's something that probably they can afford. They probably have that much capital if they're a real estate investor that invests in a property and turns around and sells it. And if you bought it, let's say you bought a property for $10,000, it was worth $60,000, and you sold it to them for $35,000 or for $30,000. Well, you would make $20,000, but it'd be worth it to them as the investor because there's $30,000 worth of equity still left in the property. And so they'll go through and clean the property up. They'll go through, get quiet title, and then he'll list that with an agent and sell it for top dollar. Or she'll list that with an agent and sell it for top dollar. In that situation, they're more than happy because they're looking at properties that probably don't have that much of a margin. They may be looking at properties they can make 10 or 15% on, and this property they essentially have the opportunity to make 50% on. or half. They're picking it up for half of its value, and so in that type of scenario, an investor would be, willing to buy that property because they could turn around and sell it and make a great profit.
And in the beginning, really the terms of the agreement, it's all about finding investors that that do that kind of a thing, and getting the terms figured out. With the pricing, I think if you I so far all of our students, I don't think anybody has gone out there and paid crazy price for anything. We've never had a student that has contacted us and is like, oh, I just paid $40,000 for this for this property with junk land. Every single
we scare them way too much.
Yeah, seriously, I do think that we must scare people too much, because whenever a student does buy, it's a single family home, and it's almost all. I mean, really, every single time it's been a fantastic deal. They bought really well with it. So we must push that enough, because people don't typically, when they do buy, they just buy single family homes.
Well, and as long as you're doing your research, if it's a single family home, if it's a commercial property, if it's a building lot, if the value's there and you could pick it up in the market, the market's there, then it's going to be a good investment. There's so many good investments out there that all you have to do is just avoid bad investments, and that's not that hard to do, because even just looking at the basic tools of that bid to value ratio, of what's the opening bid and how much is it assessed, just based off of that information, we should be able to look over a list and whittle that list down to 20, well, depending on how it's 20% of properties that may fit what we're looking for. They have a good bid to value ratio and a high assessed value, and the rest of them we can disregard. We don't have to spend any time on them because maybe it has a low assessed value or something like that. We just know it's not going to be a good investment.
Yeah. Let's see here. There are a number of sales that are coming up. If I'm just looking here towards the end of this month, we've got a lot of sales that are taking place, and some good sales also that are happening right after into the beginning of July. Let's take a look here. By the way, if anybody's interested in the Texas auctions, they always occur on the first of the month. There are a whole bunch of counties that conduct auctions together.
The first Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, the first Tuesday, that's right.
So it could change. On this one, it's the first, but it could be the second, the third, whatever the first Tuesday is.
Now, see, that's Lee County. And this is for July 1st. We've got. Let me go back to the homepage here. Now, this is something that's kind of interesting that we've seen. Lee County is selling a ton of tax deeds. They if you look at their calendar for June, they're selling nearly 80 to 100 every single week. Every single Tuesday, they've got a big number that they're selling, and they're really continuing that on through the month of July. And so there are a lot of opportunities there. Whenever you get a larger sale like this, you've always increased the chances that people are not going to pick up some of their properties, and that some will slip through the cracks. It happens with almost every single sale that we see that has more than 20 properties on it. There's always something that slips through the cracks, and sometimes there's a whole bunch that slips through the cracks, and sometimes the majority of stuff slips through the cracks. You'll still find properties that specific people want and will pay a lot of money for, but as a whole, not a lot of bidding going on.
And you'll see some properties that maybe have one or two bids, and they may go up a couple $1,000s past their minimum bid, but they're awarded for under 10% of their value.
So if we're looking for record information, on this,
really that's kind of perfect. The very first one and the very second one, and looking at those two properties, one has a $21,000 opening bid and it has a $34,000 assessed value. Now we could check that to see if maybe the assessed value is wrong and the property's worth quite a bit more. But the property right below it has a $6,000 uh, opening bid amount and a $45,000 assessed value. So I'm looking to those two properties. If we're going to spend any time, we're going to look at the second property because it has a better opening bid to assessed value ratio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by the way, Heidi, yeah, when we're talking about the about just not being able to sell it to to somebody that's going to get financing, it's really the only thing that you can't do with it is just sell it through your traditional, sell it to the the average person that is planning on getting a loan to buy the property, and that's just because they won't be able to get financed on the tax deed. If they want to get financed on it, the tax deed has to be turned into a warranty deed. That's really the only issue with it. Oh, no problem. We'll see you later. Heidi had to take off, but yeah, I think that's a really good example too. These first couple of why you choose some and why you don't choose others. So this one would have numbers that would work better. I mean the bid to value ratio on it is probably closer to 15%. So let's take a look first. We wanted to click on the I always end up copying that. Let's take a look and see what the parcel ID shows us.
I always click on the parcel ID first.
In some counties, it's worth it. In
That's
some
just
counties,
habit, I think. Yeah. So look at this property. We can tell a few things just automatically looking at the picture. We can see that this is some type of commercial condo or some type of commercial building. It's definitely not your single family home. We can see that just in that first photo.
Yeah, this you can see it. It looks like it is shared office space. I can't.
It actually looks like really a pretty nice property.
Yeah.
So, in looking in the information, we can see assessed value about 45. Oh, is there additional information below?
Yeah, let me just make that a little smaller so we can see it. Okay, so we could look at
it's just the different tax codes.
Yeah, the different ways that the properties. And then we've got a sales history here on the property. Looks like it sold in 2002, 2004, and 2006, and each one of those times was with a warranty deed, I believe.
Well, you can see that it sold in 2004 for $232,000.
Yeah.
It may have went up for sale in 2013 at a tax deed sale, but didn't sell for whatever reason. The county might have pulled it. It looks like.
Yeah.
But in looking at the value, we can see in 1982 it had a value of 117. In 2002, it was they paid 100,000, and then 2004 at the peak of the market, somebody paid $232,000 for it. 2 years later, they sold it for 157. And so you can see how much money that they lost within that time. And then also it's kind of interesting. You look at 2006, fair market value, arm's length, one strap. It's the loan type. Huh.
Yeah.
So that it's interesting information. We can of course click on the number if we want to find out more about the sales. But let's look at a little bit the parcel number history and maybe appraisal details.
Okay, so this is basically when it was split from another parcel in 2006. So that must be why it was sold for less.
Oh, for 157.
Yeah, they must have divided it. I'll bet it was like a multi-unit, and they probably divided it.
Yeah. It might have been like two sides,
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of interesting. Appraisal details. Oh, let's see what we can find out in there.
We can see the size is 1,300 square feet. has a bathroom. Oh, and it was built in 2006. That's the reason it was split.
Oh,
So before that, those are land sales probably or something.
I bet if we were to click on that one right here for the, we could probably see. If we're looking here, we can probably click on this transaction number in 2004 to see exactly what happened with it.
So in 2006, it was built and split, and they split. They probably the contractor, whoever built the property at that time, built the condos, and then obviously splits them up into different deeds for each one. So because it's a newer property, we're looking at some of that information.
Yeah, and it's loading up right now. The document, they've got everything scanned, and so we could look at the original the deed type to see what kind of transaction it was. They use different deed types for transactions, but it's not pulling up for me.
It's taking a while.
Maybe
Let's look at maybe another property.
Yeah.
But based off what we've seen, $6,000 opening bid. For this type of property, especially if you're looking at any type of rentals. That would be a great property, a commercial property.
Now, sometimes you'll come across some of these where they'll have a physical address, but let's say the assessed value is really low.
Click on the property. I'm for sure it's a lot.
Yeah.
And really, this lot would have a lot more value than $2,700. The problem is there's just so many of them available. Probably a few years ago, and if we were to go look through the history, we'd see this assessed value was probably valued at $10,000 back in 2005. But there's so many lots like this in certain areas that it's just really kind of brought the value down, and they just kind of they'll value every single unbuildable lot within this neighborhood at $2,700.
Yeah.
But you can see that right next to this lot, there is a home. But as we're going through the list, we can, pretty much quickly eliminate any of these properties that don't have a high value, or because we know they're not going to be something we're looking for.
Yeah, in fact, all of these, are just raw land. The $3,000 value, you can pretty much count on it.
And this still might have a ton of them.
So, yeah, in fact, that might be what maybe the Lee County. That's part of what they're doing here is just blowing out a whole bunch of their lots. Now that's why they all have addresses.
Hey, go back up there. It said duplex
street.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think that maybe those will. Let's take a look at.
Charlotte.
That's kind of weird. Is Escambia actually has some pretty good properties here. This is for a sale that Escambia is doing on the 7th of July. So we'll see here what still ends up redeeming and what doesn't.
The first one, has $5,000 opening bid.
And you can see it's a condo residential unit. Quitclaim deeds though since '81.
Probably family.
Yeah,
because they only sold for 100. It only sells for 100. It's family.
So from here, we just go. I don't know why they've got an extra one in there. Having a D. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, so sometimes it's nice to use a satellite image here first so you can kind of see what you're looking at. This is...
See, close to the school. Got the football field right there.
looking overhead, you can see that it's an apartment complex. We can go down here street side and see it. So it's one of the condos, inside here, which it looks like a nice little place. And these images are from April of 2013, and so these are much newer. I mean they're
just over a year.
It's just over a year old.
Well, and with a condo, it's going to be pretty much the same.
Yeah, and there's actually a lot of properties that are like this. $5,000 opening bid on this one, and it's estimating assessed value of $53,000.
So when we're looking at a $5,300 bid and a $53,000 assessed value, it's pretty easy to come up with the bid to value ratio at 10%. Oh, it's on a kind of on an inlet or something. There's water on both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go back.
Oh, I see. Yeah, they are out here on this kind of a.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, they've got waterways all over the place. But yeah, you can see this property.
That's that nice little single
family. Oh yeah, $5,000 opening bid. They've got this little entryway thing. I don't know what it is, kind of a little homemade entryway, but it has. I think this is theirs, as well. It's this and that. Wow.
Well, you can see at that sign there, they've got a for rent sign going over to the left.
Oh,
or for sale. I can't see which one it is.
I can't tell either. Could be a beware of dog for all I know. I can't really tell. Oh yeah, this is the one right here actually. So this one right here, like $8,000 bid. Let's see what this one does. $8,000. This is that one that I showed you in the example. It was $8,000 house.
Yeah.
That is just an amazing house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can see, this is in like a nice middle class, newer neighborhood.
Yeah, that's real nice.
Yeah, very nice property.
Oh, really about as nice as you can get. Oh, you want to cross the street?
Yeah, somehow I jumped across the street here.
Let's look up that property on Zillow real quick. I guess we're kind of running out of time.
But... Yeah, we'll look this up quick and wrap it up. Okay. Zillow looks so much better when I bring it up in Safari. It's kind of crazy. Looks a lot better. It actually comes up in the old style.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay, so what I'll do here, just make this a little bit bigger so you can see it.
You can see it's in a pretty populated neighborhood. Definitely, probably in a nicer area of town.
Yeah, and you can get the details. Last sold in 1998 for $118,000. I think that was when it was built.
Yeah, that was when it was originally built. You can see it has a value of $154.
And historically, it's been worth as much as close to $250.
Yeah.
In 2006 or so, early 2006. Let me just look at the questions here real quick. Stop showing the screen here for a second. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here for this evening. But if anybody has any additional questions, feel free to email into us, or you can call us on the hotline, 801-331-8921, or support@propertytaxlist.com. we've recorded this this entire training, and so I'll make that available again. I think we're going to continue doing it the way we did last week, which just should give you a window to just to click on and play. It should be a lot easier to do than anything else. So, yeah, if you have any questions, let us know. There are a ton of sales. We'll be doing lots of updates here over the coming weeks. So just pay attention to it, and we'll try to let everybody know whenever anything major changes. So thanks again for joining us tonight. We'll plan on doing this again here next week.
You guys have a great week.